The real winners in prefabrication are the developers, the architects, the engineers, those folks that are in the very beginning. One of the things that I tell a lot of our customers is, and when dealing with architects is really what you want to do is be so early in the process that you have a floor plan and elevations from an architect, and then the model is created within the software for panelization, obviously, because in load-bearing conditions you have the stud placement is load-bearing, you can't hit plumbing, et cetera. So if we create the model and then give it back to you, the architect, then you can spin it out to your MEP consultants. You can start that clash detection very early on. So the big win is to make the decision to go cold form steel, and especially prefabricated cold form steel.
But it really is that easy. They'll go together precisely. We built a lot of homes now down in Benson, and one of Brad's exclamations is, wow, my labor is half of what it would be if I was wood framing this. And it goes together fast, perfectly. All the other trades that follow it have an easier job. And the warranty issues 18 months from now, there aren't any. Walls are straight, doors hang straight, no cracks. It just, makes it a lot easier for a builder.
This system has what we call almost zero waste. Everything is cut precise. The waste that you have is, if you look at these pieces in the center of the table, the system turns one C-stud profile, and then it clips the flange, it dimples and punches where each stud goes, and then it chamfers the end of the studs, the upright pieces, so that it fits inside and creates that flush piece right there. The holes that are punched is it. That's your waste, which can then, of course, be recycled. The owners have come back and said, I'll never build another way. And because it really is that fast. The 5-story, we were able to erect the entire structure wrapped in 5/8 dense glass through roof in less than 5 months, which is smoking fast. The joy is with prefabrication and off-site construction is while the dirt work and the studs are all being done, the dirt work, I'm sorry, and the slabs, not studs, you're in your shop panelizing so that the day they tell you that the slab's ready for you, you show up with a stack of walls and you can begin building. That's the joy, and that starts the speed. Of course, the other thing is because it's exact, all your mill work, all of those things can be ordered the day that you get the plans.
It took a lot longer than I thought. There was a lot more resistance than I'd expected. And there was a lot more education required to get people comfortable around the idea that cold form steel, which has been used for over 170 years, has been used in every commercial structure. Those walls that are surrounding you right now probably have metal inside of them, cold form steel, that holds up the drywall. The difference now is with technology and with composition of metal, it's allowed for it to now hold up the entire building. So when you mentioned, Roger, us going to 7 stories, absolutely we do. We're actually looking at 10 stories, and we're doing 10 stories in design right now. So that's a radical change in the conception of what people have always thought cold form steel to be. And I can tell you, because I dealt with so much of it, for the good and bad, I can tell you that it's mostly been around the idea that steel is just more expensive than wood, or steel is not suited for projects that are made out of concrete. And I can tell you, with over 60 projects in the pipeline of every different kind, from affordable housing, hotels, multifamily, single family, I can tell you that it applies in every single case. The heavier the material it is, the more it makes sense, the more cost effective it is, the more the applicability applies to the gaps that we have in traditional construction. I'm not saying that each of those materials don't have a place in construction. What I'm saying is, while we have only known we could build with wood and we could build with concrete, we've always been here in the middle the whole time as an option. It just hasn't been exercised. So it took 6 years of me working and trying to bring this forward as an individual company. It wasn't until COVID exposed the traditional construction for what it was. We had the ramp up of demand that brought on all of these material and labor and supply chain challenges to the demand just to meet the demand. And then you add in volatility. All of a sudden now, cold form steel has got a spotlight on it for the very first time. So a combination of FrameCAD technology, design-led software, putting us in a position to apply it to a material such as cold form steel with all of its benefits and attributes, has now put cold form steel square in the middle of the U.S. construction market, whereby we are beating wood every day. We are beating concrete every day. We are beating structural steel every day on every project. I suspect, and I've mentioned this before in a podcast that I've done with Robert, I suspect in the next 5 years, maybe 7, every production home builder will have at their model center the option for the buyer to buy in wood or buy in steel. I think it's coming. But I will tell you this, the market has shifted in such a way, not because of it's my desire that it shifted. The market has shifted organically as a result of the market conditions that got us here. And now we are a solution that we are delivering to the market. And I can tell you that in my own business in the last 12 to 18 months, that shift has been so severe that it is absolutely shocked me at the speed and volume in which everyone's listening. So hope you guys give it a shot, take a look at it, because if you do, you'll find that the cost to build is always cheaper with cold form steel every time.
Wood is not homogeneous. You have knots, you have cracks, you know, it's wet or it's green, right? So you can't rely as well. And so what you end up doing is you over design. You spend a lot of extra money on timber and over design the house. Whereas steel, you can push your utilization to 95% utilization, whereas maybe in timber you only did 80 or 75% utilization, and you spend all this extra money on timber. And steel, you do 95% utilization, and you know that every cross section in that steel stud is going to perform and behave the same, no matter where it is in the house. So that's one thing I really like about that.
We've probably got 30 projects right now that are mixed between 5 and 6 over slab, 3 and 7 over a 1 or 2 deck podium. What drives that is the design, is what's happening underneath the podium, what's happening on the first floor. Is it all open retail or is it all open lobby? If that's the case, then in many instances, part of that, if not all of that, would be looked at to use a podium. So that way everything above the podium would stack in cold form steel. It's purely driven on the design and usage of the first floor. And that will drive what you have to use. But I can tell you that what we do and what Jonathan does is that we look for every single way that we can design away any concrete or any hot rolled steel, because the cost savings are so dramatic. Every time you remove one of those items, whether in whole or in part, creates an enormous savings for the project.
If you build in the residential world, and you're typically building with timber, and you send an invitation to bid to your subs, your MEP guys, and they get a cold form steel building, what happens? Price goes up. Why does it go up? When I ask them, they're like, it's commercial. Commercial costs more. No, that's not the way it works. So what we have done, and you're exactly right, typically the initial price that you're going to get from folks is going to be higher. However, we bring them in and we do a mock-up. We say, okay, show me why it costs more money. How many holes are you going to drill in this building? 0. You know, and you just keep going on and on and on, and that's where you get them. If you're able to supply service holes, and again, part of the software, you can put these service holes wherever you want. You can put them 6 inches off the floor. You can put them at a diagonal. You can do anything you want for plumbing, for wiring, for all kinds of things. And that's what these grommets are in these walls for, by the way, is so that in residential construction, you can still use Romex.
There's a big misconception sometimes as well that since you're using screws instead of nails, that it increases the labor. But I wanted to at least throw out there that there's a lot of folks out there using something called a VersaPin, or using other mechanical attachments that you can use a pneumatic gun. So you're not screwing and slowing labor down. In fact, you can go just as fast as a nail gun.
Right now, with the current state of material quality, as Jonathan mentioned, the material supply, the volatility, their lack of performance and deliverability, the supply chain issues as it relates to labor in every one of the markets, the lack thereof and the quality thereof, all of them combined have created the problem that we find ourselves now, which is a vortex of a demand crisis. We are right now unable to meet it. Tradition has never met it, not once. And we're the last industry that has even begun to use technology, whereas every other business, every other industry you can think of has been touched by technology in some way, and we haven't. So The production builders are going to continue in their ways until they're forced to change. And we see that in a lot of other types of businesses and industries. There is a continued misconception that lingers, and that is there is the need to replace the average framer with a commercial, knowledgeable, qualified framer just because the material is steel. That is absolutely incorrect. It has been proven incorrect. In fact, as Robert mentioned earlier, we're actually using unskilled labor with a single craftsman who can manage the project because all of the skill has been completed inside the factory to a millimeter tolerance inside the machine where there is no need for cutting, drilling on the job site. So that's a huge misconception. Those gaps continue to linger in the marketplace, but they're being eradicated.
A lot of vendors, a lot of energy vendors that run Title 24, they don't know how to process steel studs with, OSB and how to make that energy compliance work, So it's been a learning curve. We've been helping Title 24 companies. Res check in Arizona is a little more easier, but California just seems to be a little more stricter. But yeah, we typically are doing 24-inch on center. And as far as the over engineering, really quick, I'll just mention, I think a lot of engineers, I'll be blunt. I think a lot of engineers over engineer because they're not comfortable in their design skills. I'll just be honest. So if you really find an engineer that's comfortable and experienced in cold form steel, it should not be over designed.
First item, catastrophic damage, fire, wind, tornado, hurricane. That alone was in their highest pay claim out. That is in the unbelievable billions of dollars. Second line item, water intrusion caused by snow, by rain, by flood. And then the after effects, which were 6 line items, which were cost to replace, cost to repair, mold, mildew, medical. The billions of dollars it represented on an annual payout is just absolutely astronomical. The third line item was termites and pests. They had carpenter ants as a sub. Those items right there represented 67% of their annual payouts on construction claims. And that is absolutely unbelievable. And while they're sitting there, they turned and pointed to just a desk that we had built out of steel. And he looked at me and he said, "Are you telling me that if we build with that instead of wood, it's going to mitigate a portion of what I just showed you?" And I said 100%.